Hey guys, it is T. Renee Smith here. Welcome to day number 9 of the Live Your Authentic Challenge. Live Your Life Authentic Challenge. It is 21 days. So today is day number 9. Yes, day number 9. And we are going to be talking about setting your boundaries and reevaluating your priorities. So let me introduce myself, and then before we get started, I have a funny story. So I am T. Renee Smith, founder of the Authentic Woman's Inner Circle, where we help you to build a profitable business while raising extraordinary kids, rekindling the fire in your marriage, all while staying true to yourself and to your values. Okay, so funny story is, y'all, I just got off the phone with one of my new clients, and she told me that I was doing strategic bullying to her because I basically told her these are the goals in which you want to set for your life. This is what you want, and in order to do it, you got to stick to it, and you've got to do the work. So I've never been called strategic bullying before, but I thought that was interesting. And this morning I was at a breakfast meeting, and guys, I met Jasmine Guy. You guys know Whitley from A Different World. When I tell you, she was just so cool, so down to earth, had such a genuine spirit. So she was really just like she was. I was watching the Unplugged interview on her a couple of weeks back, and she was just like she was in the interview. So anyway, that has nothing to do with anything. I just thought that was really cool. So day number 9 is going to be talking about, do you need to reevaluate your priorities, and do you need to set boundaries? So yesterday, day number 8, it was such a great day. Hey, Simone, how are you? Hey, Omar, how are you? Because we really talked about the 4 keys for you being successful. So I got a lot of messages and a lot of responses and emails about that, because I think a lot of people had aha moments as to why they are not as successful as they want to be in their life. So I'm going to do a quick recap of that. And if you did not see day number 8 video, you want to make sure that you see it. You can go to trenesmith.com/authentic, trenesmith.com/authentic to register for the challenge, and you can see the replay of video day number 8. So, quick recap. The 4 keys to be successful are, number 1, you got to have the right mindset. Because remember, you're not going to go any further than your mindset. Number 2, you have to make sure that you have the right information. Number 3, you have to make sure that you have a strategy specifically for you. Hey, Lee. And you have to make sure that you implement that strategy. And number 4 is you have to have accountability. And so in the message box yesterday, you guys were telling me which area you were missing. So if you didn't get a chance to do that yesterday, just make sure that you put in the box, which area are you missing? The right mindset, the right information, the right strategy, or the right accountability. So once you figure that out, whether it's in your marriage, your life, your relationship, your business, or your career, when you figure out which one of those you are missing, then that is going to help you to propel yourself to the greatness, the destiny, the goals, or whatever you have for yourself. Thanks, guys, for the hearts. Thank you. Okay, so today we're talking about priorities and boundaries. Why is this so important? Because the priorities that you set in your life is going to tell you what you focus your attention on, and the boundaries is going to basically tell other people what you're going to allow or not allow in your life. So earlier on, hey Al, how are you? Self-growth and development, absolutely. Earlier on in the challenge, within the first couple of days, I had you to write out what you value. And the reason why you want to write out what you value is because that is going to tell you how you spend your time. So if you value financial wealth, if you value peace, if you value great relationships with your children, whatever you value is going to be how you invest your time. So I want you to pull back out your homework assignment where you had to list out the top 10 things that you value. And the reason why you're pulling that out is because you need to make sure that your priorities are aligned with your values. Now, what am I talking about when I say priorities? I'm going to list mine, and then I want you guys to take a few seconds to list yours as well. So my priorities in the past used to be probably business, then my kids, then business again. My husband was somewhere down on the list, and I don't even think I was on the list as far as my self-care. Now, what happened with my priorities being like that? I was tired. I was a workaholic. and I wasn't really experiencing the joy that I wanted in my life. So I'm sure a lot of you on this recording or on this video, your priorities may be a little bit out of order too. You might have career and business all that first. However, you've got to start looking at what you value to make sure that your priorities are in order. So now let's turn the tables and let's go over what my values are or my priorities are today. Number one, you have to be your first priority. I know many of us, we're the smartest one in our circle. We're the go-to in our circle, our family. Everybody comes to us. We're like the ones that have made it. And so they expect us to answer all of the questions. We have friends that come to us. They suck us dry, get information, drain us, and we're always helping everybody else before we help ourselves. When it comes time to do our business or to work on something that we want to, we're tired and we're drained because we helped everybody else. So no. We got to change that and we got to switch it. So priority number one should be yourself, your self-care, your spiritual relationship, right? Because you cannot give to somebody else that you don't have. Many of us are pouring out into others in our reserve, and you should be pouring out to people in your overflow. So what'd you say, Al? You're right. It's people's habit and mindset that keeps them stuck or moving in the wrong direction. Right. You've got to have an upward mobile state of mind. So Al, you're absolutely right. So in part of having an upward mobile state of mind, you've got to make sure that you're healthy mentally, spiritually, and physically. So your first priority, again, needs to be yourself and your spiritual relationship with God, your higher power, or whatever your spiritual connection needs to be. So you've got to focus on your mind, your body, and your spirit. So that's priority number one. Number two, if you're married or if you have a spouse or a significant other, that should be priority number two. Why? Because, especially if you have children, that is the unit. You guys are determining what your family's going to look like, what your family's going to do, how you're going to raise your children. So mothers, your spouse, your husband comes before your relationship with your kids. I have a lot of my clients that are like, well, my husband is grown. He can take care of himself, but my kids cannot. Your husband has to be second under you and your relationship with God or your higher power and your self-care. So number two is your spouse. Your third priority, if you have children, of course, is your children. And then that fourth priority is going to be your business, your career, or whatever you're doing, whether it be volunteer work, etc. So let's recap. The first priority is yourself, your spiritual wholeness, your physical fitness, your mindset, right? Because you can only pour out what you have. So you don't want to give people your reserves. You want to give them the overflow. And this is not selfish. I hear a lot of people say, well, I can't place myself before my kids. You have to, because if you don't have anything left over, when your kids get home, you're yelling, you're screaming, you're fussing, and you're not fun to be around. So you have to take time and take care of yourself. So priority number one is you and your self-care. Priority number two, if you are married, is your spouse. Priority number three are your children. And priority number four is your business or your career. Why do you have to know your priorities? Because you have to be able to set boundaries. The importance of setting boundaries is to set limits within your life, within your relationship, your marriage, within your business. So for instance, in marriage, you have to have kind of what your non-negotiable boundaries are. And then you have to set boundaries. Same thing with your friends or with clients. So one thing that I work with my clients on when we're doing business coaching is let's set the boundaries of the type of client that you want. It's not just about the money, but what are your boundaries? What do you value in a client? That they're going to listen to you, that they're going to do the work, that they're going to pay on time. Whatever the case is, understand what you value so you can set those priorities. In your relationships with friends, I've spoken to so many women that they are in relationships that are one-sided. They're always the ones giving the advice. They're always the ones helping. But when it comes time for that other person to pour back into them, it's crickets, nothing. So you've got to be able to set boundaries so that you can have mutually beneficial relationships. Does that make sense? Simone, what'd you say? You have to take care of yourself first, and then you can take care of others. Absolutely. Absolutely. And in relationships, you have to be on the same page, or you have to be on the same sheet of music. It's about having balance. Al, are you a musician? Talking about the same sheet of music? But Al and Simone are both right. You got to take care of yourself first. And you got to make sure that you're on the same page with your spouse, your children, whoever the case is. And even with your kids, you have to set boundaries to ensure that you're going to have respect, that you're going to discipline with love, so that everybody understands the expectations. One of the killers of relationships is assumptions. When you're clear on your priorities and you're clear on your boundaries, you do not have to make assumptions. So how many of you all have been in relationships with somebody, or how many of you guys have had business ventures and you assume that you were going to get the client? Right? You already had spent the money in your head that you were going to get this client. Nothing was ever signed, but you assumed that you were going to get it. What did you get? Heartache and despair if it did not happen. So when you have clear priorities and clear boundaries, you don't make assumptions. You actually ask questions and you set the boundaries and the parameters of what you want. So yeah, that's because people get together for the wrong reasons out of selfishness, wants, and needs. Right. Hey, Sharice, how are you? Hey, Deb. So Al is very correct. Al, you are on point today. So you want to make sure that you clearly outline what your boundaries are in every relationship that you have. And that includes your relationship with yourself. Remember yesterday how we were talking about if you look at the 5 people that you are around the most, that's going to determine where you are. Well, one of those 5 people is yourself. And a lot of times we don't look at the relationship that we have with ourselves. And that is so key. That's why the first priority that you have is yourself. And you have to set boundaries within yourself to ensure that you're going to maintain your priorities. That is simply saying that this is what I'm willing to do. This is how far I'm going to go. And if I don't want to do it, if it doesn't line up with my priorities, if it doesn't line up with my goals, then the answer is no. This is the biggest takeaway from this video today. No is a complete sentence. No is absolutely a complete sentence. You don't have to explain. No. If it does not line up with your priorities, then you don't have to do it. Because when you say no to others, you say yes to yourself. And sometimes when you say yes too many times to other people, then you're saying no to yourself. Okay? So guys, let's just recap day number 9, which is looking at what you value and understanding if you need to reprioritize or relook or evaluate your priorities. And number 2, setting boundaries. So the first thing that you're going to do with your homework assignment is to go back and look at the values that you set in day 2 or day 3, I believe. If you did not set your values, I want you to write down the top 10 things that you value. Okay? So assignment number 1 is to write down the top 10 things that you value. And the reason why you do this is because what you value should be aligned with your priorities. If you're valuing financial freedom, what are you doing? What have you prioritized to ensure that you receive that? If you value having a great relationship with your kids where you guys are open and honest and you're emotionally connected, what are you prioritizing to make sure that that happens? If you want a loving and a passionate relationship with your spouse, what are you doing to rekindle that fire, to have spontaneity? If you want to build a profitable business or soar in your career, are your priorities aligning with that? Are your boundaries set up for that? Okay, so number 1 is to write down the top 10 things that you value. Number 2 is to write down your priorities. Okay, so I want you to get a sheet of paper. Divide it down the middle. On the left side, I want you to write down what your priorities are now. And on the right side, I want you to write down what you want your priorities to be. So when you're on that left side writing down what your priorities are now, be honest. Okay? Most people's priorities are going to be completely out of order, and that is okay. But you've got to recognize that before you're able to change it. So again, we talked about the way that your priority should be is number 1, you and your self-care, making sure that your whole mind, body, and spirit, because you can only pour out into somebody what you have. Number 2, your priority should be, and so also in number 1, your spiritual relationship. And we're going to talk about in the next couple of days about how to develop a spiritual practice and how to discover your purpose. So again, number 1, self-care for you. Number two, if you're married, it should be your spouse and your relationship with them and cultivating it. Because when you get married, you still have to date, you still have to have spontaneity, you still have to communicate with them loving and all those other things. Number three priority, or the third priority, should be your children. And then the fourth priority should be your business or your career. So if any of those are out of order, then you're going to be out of balance. So what that simply means is, before I can just thrive and go hard on my business, I've got to make sure that I'm taken care of, my husband's taken care of, and my children are taken care of. When I was out of order, working in my business was like work. It was like pulling teeth. But once I started to get aligned and get in order, business started flowing because I was in sync with the way that God had made me. Right? Okay, so that's assignment number two. Left hand, write down what your priorities are. Right hand, write down what your priorities need to be or what you want them to be. And third, I want you to look at areas in your life and figure out where you need to set boundaries. These could be in personal relationships, your relationship with your husband or your wife, client relationships, relationships at work, whatever the case is. I had one particular client that we were doing business coaching, and we had to set boundaries with her clients, meaning she may be charging them $5,000 to do work, but she was giving them $15,000 or $20,000 worth of work and time, and she was not charging them for it. They could call her at any time of the night. They could constantly send her emails, and it was not the package that they signed up for. So she had to set boundaries. So look at the areas in your life that you need to set boundaries in, whether it's with your children, whether it's with your girlfriends or your male friends, if it's with work, your career, your business, whatever the case is, look at where you need to set boundaries and then start writing out those boundaries and clearly communicating it to people. You have to let them know what the boundaries are so that they know what not to, or how not to step over them. One thing that I do when I'm signing up coaching clients, just to give you an example, our boundaries are you have to do the work. You have to show up when we're scheduled to do our sessions. If you don't, you have to call 24 hours in advance. If you don't do it, you forfeit a session. So we set all of those boundaries up front. When my husband and I got married, we had non-negotiable boundaries. One of those was cheating. That's a no-go. So the other person knows what those boundaries are. So make sure that you set up your non-negotiable boundaries. Okay, guys? Woo! That was a lot to get out today, but it is so important that you know your priorities, you know what you value, and you know what your boundaries are, because people will start respecting you more. Because remember, you show them how to treat you by the way that you treat yourself. So when you have your priorities in order and you have your boundaries in order, then it's showing people that I'm worthy and I'm valuable of respect, and I expect that from you. Woo! All right, guys, this was day number 9 of the Live Your Authentic Life Challenge. Al, Cherise, Deb, all of you guys, thank you so much for joining and for commenting today. I appreciate it. So in your notes, let me know which priorities you need to shift and change, or which areas you need to change your boundaries. Hey, Classic, how are you? Great tips. Thank you, guys. So this is a two-way conversation here, two-way video. While I'm teaching, I want you guys responding and let me know what resonates with you, what aha moments do you have, and what are you going to apply in your life. Because I don't want you to soak in all this information, get full and get fat. It's all about taking action, getting the tip that you need for the day and taking action. All right, guys, I am T. Renee Smith signing off. I am the founder of the Authentic Woman's Inner Circle, where we teach you how to build a profitable business, raise extraordinary kids, rekindle that fire in your marriage, all while staying true to yourself and to your values. If you are not registered for the Authentic or Live Your Life Authentic 21-Day Challenge, register at trenesmith.com/authentic so that you can get these videos and action assignments in your life daily. Remember that you are great. Remember that when you walk in your purpose and you let your light shine, you give others the permission to do the same. So make this year, next year, the best day of your life by taking action and walking in your purpose. Hi, Regina. All right. Hi, Diane. You're making a list of boundaries for 2017. Diane, that is right. So are your boundaries off and you need to change them a little bit, Diane? Just give us a little information and let us know. All right, guys, post your comments below and I will see you tomorrow right back here. And if you're not registered, treneesmith.com/authentic. Have an amazing rest of your day full of peace, purpose, and prosperity. Let's go. Bye-bye.